We're not very happy about it because the elders put forth, and with our support, to change the name fully because it is a new school.
Tonight, controversy over a school name change in northern BC.
What I learned about policy is that it is everywhere and it is in every part of our life.
We meet the recipients of the Jane Glasgow Northern Fellowship.
They catch a lot of non-band members in there, so they kick them out, and then nighttime, those people just go and dump.
And cleaning up the sandtails in the N.W.T Nation. Hello and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Darrell Stranger. Today, Ottawa was again looking to the near future as provinces begin slowly reopening their economies. The Prime Minister announced what's needed to meet that goal. But Todd Lamoran begins with the virtual meeting of the House of Commons Indigenous Peoples Committee.
AFN Quebec, Labrador Chief Ghislain Picard, and Tara Campbell from northern Saskatchewan pointed to the same factor that curbed the spread of COVID-19 in most parts of their regions.
Like I mentioned earlier, we have 33 communities, and during the height of this, we had 27 of them that restricted road access coming in. So just that alone helped with stopping transmission.
NDP MP Mumilok Kakok asked about the availability of testing in Campbell's part of Saskatchewan. Campbell said extensive testing was done in communities hit hard by a recent outbreak of COVID-19.
Now, we aren't able to do this in every community, obviously, because testing supplies are limited. We do have a hard time getting these from the province, like as I had mentioned earlier. So the number of tests that we've done doesn't give an accurate reflection.
Meanwhile, Trudeau announced the need for a national approach to reopen the economy.
Even in regions where the spread of the virus seems very much under control right now, there could be a resurgence. And when that happens, we need to be able to respond quickly and comprehensively. And that's very much what the federal government is working on.
He talked about ramping up testing capacity, sharing data collected across jurisdictions, and providing federal help to do contact tracing by repurposing thousands of government employees.
Our government has trained federal employees who can make 3,600 contact tracing calls a day, 7 days a week. Statistics Canada has also an additional 1,700 interviewers ready to go who can make up to 20,000 calls a day.
Conservative leader Andrew Scheer wants Parliament declared an essential service. He proposed a combination of 50 sitting MPs and virtual representation from the rest to begin sitting on Monday. Todd Lamoran, APTN National News, Ottawa.
In the Atlantic region, there are still no reported cases of COVID-19 in Indigenous communities, and the spread of the virus is slowing. Provinces are relaxing restrictions to rebuild their economies. Angel Moore now with an update from Halifax.
All provincial borders in the Atlantic region still have checkpoints. Anyone crosses has to self-isolate for 14 days. New Brunswick has reported its first active COVID-19 case in 2 weeks. But that's not stopping Premier Blair Higgs from announcing businesses can start reopening. Yilgarn First Nation Chief George Ganesh says we're a long ways away from being COVID-free. The community is keeping their curfew from 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. The warmer weather has prompted Prince Edward Island to start the process of allowing 2,300 Canadian seasonal residents from coming back to the island. An employee of the Lennox Island First Nation said no thanks, that this could speed up the second wave of the virus. Right now, PEI is reporting no active cases. Nova Scotia's COVID-19 numbers have been the highest in the region, with 58 deaths and 31 active cases. But the province is considering opening businesses in early June. Chief ROD GOOGOO of Waigaba First Nation says his community is still closed.
So, with the numbers being down, I think we just want to be cautious as we move forward, because we don't want to open that door and all of a sudden bad things start happening again.
Newfoundland and Labrador is reporting 4 active cases and 3 deaths. Child care services are slowly opening to allow essential workers to get back to work. An employee of Sheshatshe Innu First Nation says his community is worried. They fear resource development workers coming into Labrador pose a risk. Regardless of the number of COVID-19 cases, all communities are bracing for the second wave, although no one knows when that's going to happen. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Chipuktuk, Halifax.
A second wave is what has all of Canada taking precautionary measures. And over from the East Coast to Western Canada now, 11 of 14 cases in the Blood Tribe Nation of Alberta have recovered from COVID-19. Quebec and Ontario continue to have the most cases in Canada. Quebec is approaching 50,000 cases as they sit at 46,141 COVID-19 cases. Ontario has 24,628 cases of COVID-19. Nationally, there are 82,419 cases of COVID-19. There have been 6,244 deaths from COVID-19 and 37,549 people have recovered from the virus. While some businesses and recreational centers have already opened up across the country, casinos remain closed and they're losing money by the day. One of those with their doors shut is the River Cree Resort and Casino in Enoch Cree Nation, just west of Edmonton. The casino normally brings in millions of dollars for Enoch, but has been sitting idle since March with no money coming in. Enoch estimates that if they stay closed for 6 months, the community will lose $22 million in casino-generated revenue. But Chief Billy Morin says it's not just the loss of income that's hurting the community, it's also the loss of jobs.
That casino laid off 900 employees in the actual operation of the casino, and 300 of them being Indigenous or Aboriginal, and about 200 of those are own band members in the whole operation. And then back on the nation, since that is our kind of bread and butter, our main source of income, it was an additional 230 people approximately laid off because of this casino closure. So that's been the biggest impact.
A school in northern British Columbia was planning on changing its name to honor Indigenous history. But that name change received community backlash, and that resulted in a compromise that nobody was happy with. Lee Wilson has the details.
Clayton First Nation have been on the path of reconciliation. Last year, they hosted their first Balhats, or potlatch, in over 70 years. It was done in partnership with the Prince George School District. So when the new school was being built on the grounds of the old school that was torn down, the Prince George School Board announced that Kelly Road Secondary would become Shasti, or Grizzly Trail in Daka, a location where grizzly would come down in spring. But the traditional name change faced strong backlash. There were reports of racism, which could be found on social media.
When the First Nations, whenever we're trying to progress a little bit, it seems that this is kind of what happens. Like, a lot of people come out of the woodwork, and it's a very small group of people, but they're very vocal.
The original vote to change by the school district was unanimous, but after demonstrations and the Prince George community becoming divided, the school board compromised on the new school, and now the school will carry both names when it opens.
The board debated and passed a resolution to dual name the new building opening the replacement of Kelly Road Secondary in September. So the school will be named Shasti Kelly Road, highlighting both the history of Shasti as well as Kelly Road Secondary.
The Clayton feel hurt by the decision. Dai, or Chief Poutney, feels like trust built with the school district over the years has taken a hit, but they will move forward together, all for the kids' education. But they still feel the vocal minority against the name change of the school won.
We're not very happy about it because the elders put forth, and with our support, to change the name fully, because it is a new school. They call it a rebuild. So we thought it was a great time to, the elders came out and said this is a good time to kind of tell our story a little bit and to rename. But with the dual name piece, it doesn't really work. It kind of just keeps that conversation going, and it can keep fighting going on for decades.
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Prince George.
Hey, it's time for a short break and a look at tomorrow's weather, but still to come. One man is taking it upon himself to clean up the site of the 2017 World Indigenous Games. Starting over in eastern Canada now, +7 in St. John's and +7 in Charlottetown with a mix of sun and cloud. +7 in Nain and +8 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. 16 in sun in Quebec City and 28 in sun in Val-d'Or. 24 in Toronto and 26 in sun in Ottawa. 29 degrees in Timmins and 23 degrees with a mixture of sun and cloud in Wawa. 21 in Thompson and 22 in God's Lake. 25 in Gimli and 24 in Winnipeg. 20 degrees in Yorkton with a mixture of sun and cloud, and 15 in a mix of sun and cloud in Saskatoon. 7 degrees in Stony Rapids and 13 in La Ronge. Welcome back. In Anishinaabe, a two-spirited woman has been appointed a Justice of the Supreme Court of Nova Scotia, becoming the province's 4th Indigenous judge. Diane Rowe, a 60 Scoop survivor, grew up in Newfoundland and in 1998 was called to the bar in Nova Scotia, where she worked at the Department of Justice. Rowe has advocated for Indigenous peoples, refugees, and 2S LGBTQ communities. Armand Paul just graduated from Dalhousie Law School and says Rowe is an inspiration to Indigenous students and lawyers.
You get to see someone that reflects your community, that reflects, indigeneity. To have somebody in such a very powerful position, a position that was normally not available to Indigenous people and which is now available.
While much focus is on COVID-19, young leaders north of 60 haven't let the pandemic slow advocacy work. A well-known Northern Fellowship program has recently published a 300-page document on various policy recommendations. Charlotte Mort-Jacobs spoke with 2 Northwest Territories participants.
Kululak Anunak believes Inuktitut is best taught by doing.
It's the only way that mimic, which is their butts, stuck with me was through butchering it with my dad, practical application. If someone had said it to me in a classroom, it would have just immediately fallen out of my head.
She spent 18 months exploring language revitalization through the Jane Glasgow Northern Fellowship, a charity organization that trains young leaders from the territories, Nunavik, and Nunatsiavut to tackle public policy on issues important to them. Policy papers from the fellowship have been used by northern communities, governments, and organizations since the program started in 2010. Arnunak used her knowledge as a chartered accountant and Inuktitut learner to write about amending the Federal Tax Act.
There's this law in charitable regulations that basically says if money goes into the charitable sector, it can either be spent by the charity or go to another charity. To me, in my experience, that's really restrictive for people that are actually doing language teaching and learning work. The CRA is very technical, it's very boring. So it's unrealistic to assume that people that are skilled in language revitalization can also be skilled at reviewing tax law and tax compliance or charitable compliance regulations.
I'm leaving it with so many different things.
For Kristen Tanche, her paper on the creation of localized addictions programming for her home community of Lilekwe, Fort Simpson, resulted in her taking over as Regional Wellness Coordinator for the Decho First Nation.
What I learned about policy is that it is everywhere and it is in every part of our life. Like, Indigenous people even have like a traditional form of policy, if you really think about it, that like we governed our lives according to Dene law, for example, and that could be considered a form of policy.
Tanche wanted her policy recommendations to come directly from her community. She gathered interviews, asking what is and isn't working to help those living with addictions, and then looked for common themes.
Collectively, everybody's voices. And like even just talking about it actually gets me emotional all over again, because it's not just me, it's the entire community, or it's our entire region.
Tanche and Anunak both agree that Northern policy needs to be written by and for Northerners, and their experience with the fellowship offered them an opportunity to do just that. Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
To Alberta now, where an Enoch Cree Nation member has taken the initiative to clean a once popular park that hosted the 2017 World Indigenous Games. Chris Stewart talks to Robert Hope, the man behind the cleanup.
For the past 2 years, Robert Hope has been organizing cleanups of what is called the Sandhills in the Enoch Cree Nation. He says community members and people from Edmonton are using the site as a garbage dump. He saw photos from this spring and knew it was time to start another cleanup.
One pile was from last year from band members, homeless band members that were out there. This other pile, who knows? They built a pretty sturdy structure there, like a lean-to, but they got it. Just looking at the pictures when I went out there, it didn't look that bad. I hooked up a trailer, would have filled up my trailer and truck.
This is the site of where the 2017 World Indigenous Games were held.
It's sacred land out there, like all the elders. Back in the day, like I said, they used to have a swimming pool out there, a rodeo out there. And it was the hub of the community, the gathering place. And now the only people really using it are the people out here that have their ATVs. And they catch a lot of non-band members in there, so they kick them out. And then nighttime, those people just go and dump.
With COVID, only 6 people came to help with this year's cleanup, including Enoch Chief and Treaty 6 Grand Chief Billy Morin. But after more than 4 hours of work, they managed to get this site cleaned up. Unfortunately, there are many more sites in the Sandhills that need cleanup. There just isn't the manpower to do it. Hope says he knows he will be back next year, but he is hoping he won't need to be.
I'm always hopeful, but I know we're going to be doing it again. Just because we're so close to the city, it's people just come out there and feel free to dump their stuff.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
It's time for one final break, but coming up, the story of a couple in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan who tied the knot during the pandemic. But first, here's the rest of tomorrow's weather. Moving over to Western Canada now. 10 degrees in Fort Chipewyan and 16 in Sun and Cloud and High Level. 13 in Red Deer and 13 in Calgary. 16 in Vancouver and 20 degrees and rain in Quesnel. 20 degrees in Sun and Cloud in Fort Nelson and 16 in clouds in Smithers. 21 and Sun and Cloud in Dawson and 17 in Whitehorse. 6 in Yellowknife and 18 in Fort Simpson and sun. 7 degrees in Colville Lake and 14 in sun in Fort McPherson. -2 in Chesterfield and -1 in Repulse Bay. -2 in Cape Dorset and -1 in Iqaluit. Welcome back. The tuberculosis epidemic of the 1950s and 60s saw thousands of Inuits sent south for tuberculosis treatment, and many Inuit patients in Canada's sanatoriums carved to keep busy. APTN Investigates reporter Brittany Guillot is here to tell us more about her episode, Carving Home. Well, Brittany, thanks for joining us here. Let's just jump right into the questions. How did you find out about the carvers in the hospitals from these letters?
Yeah, so this was something that took actually quite a few months to realize that there was so many carvers in this collection of letters. We started realizing that there were so many carvers based on their own personal accounts of what happened and what they were doing in the hospitals. A lot of them were actually making reference to carving in those letters, and so we started tracking that, and we put that in an Excel sheet, and it turned out that out of all of the patients, there was 800 patients, and out of those patients, 400 of them were in fact artists.
Okay, wow. What was it like to take Sarah to the Winnipeg Art Gallery?
That was actually a really emotional moment for Sarah. You know, like we knew she had just a couple of her family members were artists and they had art at the WAG, but neither of us knew that she had actually a handful of family members that were at the WAG as well. So there was quite a few her family members there, and that was really shocking for her to see that even her own parents were there.
And how can people find out about their loved ones?
So you can either contact myself or Holly Moore, she's a producer on the show. You can email me or her, or you can contact Beverly Lunny at the N.W.T initiative. She manages a database there to find the lost loved ones that never made it home from TB sanatoriums.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Brittany. That's Brittany Guillot from APTN Investigates. You can catch the whole episode tonight right after APTN National News. And a couple in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan didn't let a global pandemic stop them from getting married. In fact, they overcame quite a few hurdles and even a trip to the hospital to become Mr. and Mrs. Gray. Priscilla Wolf has this story.
Michael Gray and Tara Gray were set to get married July 25th. But when the pandemic hit, those wedding plans went up in the air.
We were doing a lot of planning and everything like that. So we were getting excited and everything, and people were going to buy their tickets and whatnot. And yeah, it was heartbreaking that, you know, we planned for our big day and it wasn't going to happen.
So they decided to get married sooner rather than later and move the big day up by 2 months to May 20th.
We were thinking, what's going to happen? We don't know what's going to happen. So you know what? Let's just do this now.
Turns out getting married during a pandemic would take a lot of work. Even getting the go-ahead to hold a social distance wedding turned out to be complicated.
Because we never know what's going to happen. It's so amazing, because when we tried to get our license, we could not get a license because everywhere was closed, and there was only this one guy in Saskatoon. Actually, he only had one left.
Michael's family lives all over the world. Since they couldn't fly to Saskatchewan, they watched the ceremony safely online. Family and friends that could make it in person found ways to celebrate the big day while staying safe.
We had 10 people at all times in the church, and then we just told everybody to deck your vehicles up. And after we got out of our ceremony, that we would go on a parade all around the city to make our way up to the casino.
It was a beautiful wedding made possible by family, friends, and the community.
We were told at one time there was 245 people on our group. Yeah. We had a wedding group on Facebook. It was a live watch party. And that's where we were holding it. But then other people were going live on their Facebook.
But the adventure wasn't over yet. After the ceremony and car parade, Tara fell and had to be taken to the ER in her wedding dress.
So we were going to take off after our pictures. She was just moving a chair just down, not even 2 steps. And she hit the chair on the step, and I was standing there, and she just went flying. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, it happened so fast.
Yeah.
And we're like, you know what? We got to get you to the hospital.
They spent the honeymoon in the ER. Luckily, the bride didn't break her foot, but it's swollen and badly sprained. Once Mr. and Mrs. Gray can travel again, they plan to have a real honeymoon, and they already have a destination picked.
Totally Jamaica. I'm so ready to go back to Jamaica.
Yeah, Jamaica in a heartbeat.
Yeah, because they would love to put something on there.
Priscilla Wolf, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
A big congratulations to the happy couple and a speedy recovery as well. That's your APTN National News for this Friday. For the latest news, visit our recently updated website at aptnnews.ca. Be sure to tune into APTN Investigates Carving Home starting right now. I'm Daryl Stranger. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great night.